So as you can see over here is, again, let me just recap what I just said in the previous slide. Okay, I'll just continue with this. Okay. So you can see over here is we are going to develop a flip-flop, NOR gate flip-flop, and you know the property of the NOR gate is that whenever the two inputs are 0, only then the output is 1. Otherwise, the output tends to be 0 in all the cases where we have zeros and ones. So you need to remember these properties wherever you're building these gates through either an AND or the OR. Obviously, you will remember all this. We need to remember the sequence. It's very well mentioned over here that this is the sequence that we will follow right now. 1, 2, 3, 4. So the first sequence is that the input goes from here, and the second is when you get the output over here in the Q inverse, this output goes as an input towards the OR gate, okay, the reset, and this reset combines with the OR input, comes out as the output of the OR as sequence number 4, which tends to become the output as Q, and then this goes as an input again to S again. So this flip-flop sequence keeps on going on, and we'll look into it what happens when we change different values today. So if we use our initial state of R0, इसको गौर से please देख लो, अगर मैं R को 0 रखता हूँ, initially R को मैं 0 रखता हूँ, और S को मैं रखता हूँ 1 and Q को मैं रखता हूँ 1. So if I keep Q as 1, just focus on this. If I keep Q as 1 and my S is also 1, so Q is 1 and S is 1. When both are 1, the output will be 0. So I get 0 over here. Very good, right? So if my output of Q inverse is 0, this tends to be the input for my R. Okay, so R, as we mentioned over here in our initial state, R is 0 and Q is 0. When both are 0, the output of this tends to be 1. So yes, Q is equals to 1 and Q inverse is equals to 0. It's an acceptable state and it works. Okay, but we'll look at other states, what will happen. So this particular state, this is perfectly fine. So now consider what will happen if we change of value of S from 1 to 0. Okay, next time इसको देख लेते हैं. So अब हम कर देते हैं इसको मैं यहाँ क्या करता हूँ. Anyway, now if we change our value of S0, so initially what we had was S1 R0, so Q was 1 and Q inverse was 0. The next state what we'll do is we will turn both off. We will make S0 and R0. If we tend to do that, you will see over here is that if we make this 0 and if we make this 0, we will be getting the outputs Q1 and Q dash 0. Okay, so you can see over here is कि अगर ये 0 0 होगा तो ये हो जाएगा आपका 1, अगर ये 1 होगा तो आपका जो है S है over here is 0, so 1 0 is basically 1. So the output आपको जो मिल रही है 1 0. And the good thing about over here is why I'm saying good thing is कि आपने नोट किया होगा कि step B में when I change this, when the inputs turn to 0, the outputs remain the same as the previous step following this. Can you see this? So this is your memory stage को हम कहते हैं. Step B को memory state कहते हैं. मतलब अगर हम इसको off भी कर देते हैं तो the data is retained. This is why we say that data is retained in your SR flip-flop. Are you following me? ये जरा important point है. इस बात समझ आई आपको?
Yes sir.
है ना, इस बात समझिए. देखो ना, प्रीवियस स्टेट जो थी हमारी अभी भी वही स्टेट है हमारी, बट स्टेट क्यों है? इवन बाय टर्निंग S and R 0 0 we still land up over here. Next what we do is we change inputs from 0 to 1. अब 0 to 1 करके देख लो हमारा क्या होगा. नेक्स्ट हमारा हो जाएगा 0 1. ओके, एंड अब अगला फिर चेंज कर दो 0 0 में, still again you will have is a state where the data is still being stored. So जब भी आप 0 0 करके देख लोगे उसको करके देख लेना, you will end up with 0 1. Please, I would recommend you कि आप इसको एक बार खुद draw करके make this truth table and practice it on your own so that you have an idea. Look at the E state. This is where the trouble is created. जब आप इसको 1 1 करते हो the output goes into 0 and 0. ये मसला है, दोनों 0 0 ही हो जाते हैं, ठीक है। फॉर एग्जांपल इधर आप करके देख लो, आप इधर करते हो s को 1 और आपकी प्रीवियस आउटपुट क्या आ रही है, q की 0, सो 0 1 इज 0, ठीक है। और फिर इधर आप जब आते हो यहाँ आपके पास आ जाता है 1 और ये भी 1 आ रहा है, सो 1 1 जब आएगा वो भी है तो 0, सो बोथ टर्न आउट टू बी 0, बट दिस इज नॉट ट्रू, यू कैन नॉट हैव q equal to q inverse, that's not the right statement. So this is where the flip-flop ends up with an option which is not correct. This is where the JK flip-flop had to be introduced. And what JK flip-flop did was, JK flip-flop में हमने clock लगा दी थी, plus we added. So the problem where both states of the output tends to be the same, that is a significant problem of the JK flip-flop, and you should be able to mention this in the paper as well. So the improvements in the SR flip-flop where S is equal or R is equal to is not a problem. How is this was done? You added a clock over here, okay? Mentioning of these two NOR gates, ये तो हमारा अभी हमने डिस्कस किया ना, ये भी हमने ऐड कर दी, हमने क्लॉक भी ऐड कर दी, ठीक है। मगर सिग्निफिकेंट डिफरेंस आया बिकॉज ऑफ द क्लॉक, नॉट बिकॉज ऑफ दिस गेट्स, ओके, राइट। यू कैन सी ओवर हियर इज, इससे क्या हुआ है, बाय एडिंग दिस मोस्ट ऑफ द वैल्यूज आर क्वाइट द सेम, इफ यू सी कुछ ज्यादा फर्क नहीं है, आप इसको रन कर देखोगे तो, मगर फर्क सब ये आया है कि whenever you were entering values over here, मैं आपको दिखाता हूँ, such as over here आप एंटर करते हो 1 1, तो ये 1 0, आपने देखा है जब 1 1 होगा, इनके जब ये होगा तो क्लॉक एकदम में उसको चेंज कर देगा into the next. So such a kind of, if J and K are both low, then no change occurs. If J and K are both high at the clock edge, then the output will toggle from one state to the other. JK flip-flop can function as set or reset. So जो clock का ये होगा कि when it ever sees such a kind of state, the clock will toggle both states right away and change them. This is what basically your clock does. Okay, this is known as a JK flip-flop. This was the only thing that was introduced in JK flip-flop. Then with the help of a clock, such a kind of state was avoided, so that you don't come across with it. ठीक है, वैसे तो you have D flip flop भी है, मगर कर लूंगा मैं कभी डिस्कस आपसे, मगर सिलेबस में एक्चुअली वो है नहीं D flip flop। अच्छा, इसके पेपर करके देख लेते हैं तो सी हम कैसे क्वेश्चंस क्या आते हैं एक्चुअली। We can do is पेपर 3 कर लेते हैं हम। इसमें आया हुआ क्वेश्चन, as far as I remember, there was a question of flip-flop. This is P3, yes, May June. जी आया हुआ है। अच्छा बेटा कंसिडर कर लो, लेट्स लुक at this one. Complete the truth table for this NAND gate that you have. Okay, so what will be the output of this? NAND gate की property क्या होती है, if you can remember? Are you with me? Hello, are you there?
Yes, sir.
जी, तो क्या आउटपुट होगी इसकी? NAND गेट की प्रॉपर्टी क्या होती है? So when it's 0 0, what happens? Let's recall. Do you remember?
Sir, 0. Like,
Noor?
sir, 1.
हाँ? जी, 1. ठीक है. So we'll have is 1 here, and over here the rest of the places will have what? 1 1 0 0 0. Yes or no? Noor, are you there, beta? आपको आवाज नहीं आ रही मेरी? Can you listen?
Sir, आ रही है.
अच्छा ठीक है. नहीं so okay, so ये तो हो गया, खैर तो सिंपल था. SR flip flop is constructed using two NAND gates. Okay, complete the truth table for SR flip flop. So initially अगर हम बनाते हैं, if we make S is initially we have the following: S is 1, R is 0, and then what we do is obviously we get is Q0 and Q inverse becomes 1. So obviously ये जो होंगी state, if you talk about R, क्या क्या होगा? R में एक input आ रही है 1 and the other input is Q, which is 0. So 1 0 1 0 will have what? Q क्या होगा? Q dash Q inverse क्या होगा? Do with me. So मैं दोबारा repeat करता हूँ. If Q is 0, if Q is 0 and R is 1. So in case of a NAND gate, 0 and 1 क्या होगा? 0 होगा. And in case when this becomes 0, when Q dash becomes 0,
1.
and this will become 1. ठीक है, आप यहाँ लिख दोगे. फिर इसी तरह, but I should be writing it, sorry. So हमने कहा कि जब 0 1 होगा, Q dash पहले Q कर लेते हैं. पहले Q को कर लेते हैं. We can work on Q first. जब Q dash करते हैं, it's okay. This will become 0. And when this becomes 0 and this is 1, 1 becomes. When this is S is changed to 0, okay, then what happens? Tell me. R, yeah, S की बात कर लेते हैं, let's say. S is 0 and Q dash is 0. 0 0 क्या होगा? 1, right? And when Q is 1 and R is 1, 1 1 becomes 0. Agree with me?
Sir, जो ऊपर वाला है इसमें 1 0 कैसे आया?
ये वाला ना?
जी.
हाँ, ये गलत हुआ, ये हमने सही नहीं किया, सॉरी. Let me check. ये हमारा क्या था? This was 0. Initially, दोबारा देख लेते हैं. Let's start from the beginning. Let me wrap it up. एक सेकंड बेटा. मेरा फोन नया मुझे फोन जल्दी चाहिए बेटा. मैं देखता हूँ. अच्छा सॉरी बेटा. अच्छा तो हम लेट्स डू इट अगेन. सो 1 0 है तो 0 1 होगा. तो दिस मीन्स अगर 1 1 हो जाएगा तो Q क्या हो जाएगा? Q will have over here is ये हो जाएगा 0. यू आर राइट. ये 0 हो जाएगा और ये हो जाएगा 1, right? Because Q will basically have an input as because S1 and this is 1. So 1 1 will be 0, this becomes 0 and this becomes 1. और next step में 0 1 will become basically is हमने सही किया था 1 0, ठीक है. और उससे अगला if S is changed to 1, तो 1 1 अगर हो जाएंगे तो again we'll have is 1 0. So again ये भी आपकी एक state हो जाती है which is the memory state as well. और अगर हम S and R को चेंज करते हैं तो 0 0. अब क्या होगा ये बताओ मुझे, you tell me. What will happen in this case? S and R change to 0. अगले स्टेप में क्या होगा? निम्रा, नूर, खतीजा is there as well.
सर एक मिनट.
हाँ ठीक है. You take your time and tell me क्या होगा. ठीक है, मैंने तो सोच लिया.
Sir, 1 and 0.
आपके जो NAND गेट है उसमें बेसिकली जब when both are 1 then it's 0 ना. When both are 1 it's 0 and when any one of it is 1 it's 1. यही होता है ना NAND गेट में, यही होता है ना. दोबारा रिकॉल करो. सो NAND गेट में बेसिकली ये होता है ना, you will have is जब भी आपका 0 0 होगा this will be 1, this will be 1, this will be 1 and this will be 0. ये NAND गेट में होता है. Yes or no? NAND गेट भी बात करें, नॉर की बात नहीं कर रहे. NAND गेट में ही होता है ना. तो if that is the case, if both are 1 then it's 0. If any one of them is 1, तो फिर क्या होगा? Think again. So I repeat again, when both are 1, it's 0. When any one of them is 1, 1 होगा. तो यहाँ क्या होगा? 0 1. S में क्या इधर क्या आएगा, Q में क्या आएगा? 0 1. इसमें भी 0 1 आ रहा है, इसमें भी 0 1 आ रहा है. If you can notice this. ठीक है, इसमें आ रहा है 0 0. सॉरी, इसमें आ रहा है इन केस ऑफ
सर एंड गेट में जो 1 होता है तो 0 नहीं होता.
ये देखो है NAND
एंड गेट में जो
नहीं NAND गेट है बेटा, NAND गेट है. दिस इज NAND गेट वी टॉकिंग अबाउट.
ओके ठीक है.
NAND गेट में तो ये होता है ना, इट्स एन इनवर्स ऑफ द AND गेट ना.
यस.
आप इनवर्स कर रहे हो उसको ना, तो इनवर्स करोगे तो ये होगा. एग्री? आज मूड क्यों नहीं बोल रही? अच्छा ठीक है, तो अगर आप यहां देखते हो, मैं यही कह रहा था कि इफ यू लुक एट दिस पर्टिकुलर स्टेज, इसमें क्या हो रहा है? इस केस में क्या हो रहा है? योर Q dash is 0, okay, and your S is 0. 0 0 gives you the 0, okay. 0 0 gives 0 0 gives you 1. क्या हो गया मुझे? 1. ठीक है, ये 1 आया, ये 1 इधर आया, 1 इधर आ गया. So R is 0. So 0 1 is again 1. You get the point? ये स्टेप अभी तक नहीं आई थी कि ये भी 1 है, ये भी 1 है, and this is not an acceptable state. You cannot have Q which is equal to Q dash. This is not. This is where your JK flip flops are come in, and you do is एक और गेट के साथ you add is, आप करते क्या हो? Let me explain you. You will add another गेट here. जिसकी एक इनपुट इधर आएगी, ठीक है, एक इनपुट आपकी आएगी यहां से, ठीक है, और इसकी एक इनपुट आएगी यहां से, वन इनपुट विल बी दिस, एक इसकी अपनी इनपुट होगी और एक इनपुट होगी यहां इसकी क्लॉक की. So one is the clock pulse. So we call this J and we call this K. Okay, JK. Sorry for the mistake. So JK में you have basically three inputs. J एक input आ रही है clock की, एक इसकी JK की अपनी input है, and one input comes from Q dash. इसकी Q की input goes into K, Q dash की input goes into J. So ये आपका बन जाएगा JK flip flop if we change it. Is it clear? Okay.
Yes, sir.
No, let's explain it. It was not part of the question. Just explaining it. Okay. So complete कर लिया. One of the combinations one of the combinations in the truth table should not be allowed to occur. State the values of S are that should not be allowed. Justify your answer. Yeah. Well, basically this is when S is equals to 0 and R is equals to 0, because this would produce Q is equals to 1 and Q inverse is equals to 1. Okay, this becomes unstable. The complement of Q and Q cannot be the same. So that is the justify of your mind of the choice. This is what I would write. Is it fine? Get the point?
Yes, sir.
Okay, फिर वो कहता है another type of flip flop is the JK flip flop. Give one extra input present in the JK flip flop, that is the clock. Okay, one extra input is done basically with the help of a clock pulse. Okay, clock के through हम करते हैं इसको. Right. Give one advantage of JK flip flop. Sorry. बताओ मुझे, what is the advantage of a JK flip flop? With the help of JK flip-flop, we will be able to avoid the unstable state. This happens due to the clock, and the clock triggers a pulse to avoid such a kind of state. Yes or no? Okay, मैंने ज़्यादा explain कर दिया, मगर आपसे बता था one advantage ये है कि it will not allow unstable state to occur. It's avoided. Yes or no? Clear or not? Yes. खतीजा आपसे सिर्फ निम्रा ही कौन बोल रही है ना? कौन है?
Sir, खतीजा नहीं है क्लास में.
I'm sorry, जामना भी है. Yes. जामना बोल रही है कि निम्रा बोल रही है? And Noor is not saying anything today.
Sir, दोनों बोल रहे हैं.
मगर Noor नहीं बोल रही है. Noor is not talking to us today. Okay, anyway. Describe the role of flip-flops in computers. Yeah. The role of flip-flop मैंने पहले डिस्कस किया था आपके साथ. Flip-flops are used to store information. Okay. They are stored to you. The previous state is used. आपके solid state में, आपके RAMs में, dynamic RAMs में we use flip-flops to store data basically. This is why we use flip-flops. Right. चलो आज जब हम PCM और करेंगे तो we will do more questions of SK and JK flip-flops. क्योंकि हमने पूरे पेपर्स भी करने हैं. मैं चाह रहा हूँ कि एक और क्वेश्चन मैं आप लोगों के साथ कर लूँ, which is important. This was okay, I can do this. याद नहीं है कौन सा था, ये था 16 का ही था जिसमें आया था. It's a good question. I think so 11 था. This. Yeah, I'm recording it. Okay. Yes, यही था. Let's do it. आप मेरे साथ करो. You help me out. So the table shows assembly language instruction for a processor which has one general purpose register, the accumulator, and an index register. So this all आपको पता ही आपको given होता है, ठीक है? So you don't really have to cram them. Right. The diagram shows the current contents of this section of the main memory and the index register. Index register ये है, ठीक है? ये आपकी memory locations हैं. ये memory location पे data पड़ा हुआ है, ठीक है, और इंडेक्स रजिस्टर अगर आप देख रहे हो तो इंडेक्स रजिस्टर में आप द फॉलोइंग वैल्यू which tends to be 0 0 0 which is 8. अगर इसको आप डेनरी वैल्यूज के आप देखते हो इसकी डेनरी वैल्यू is 8 right now. The first question is show the contents of the accumulator after execution of the instruction LDX 60. अच्छा, ये जरा देख लो गौर से, इसका मतलब क्या LDX 60 का मतलब, पहली बात है कि LDX basically means indexed addressing. Index addressing means what? So LDX is a register. It's a register that does index addressing. It basically form the address from address, it has to form an address from the address plus the content of the index. Content of the index register आप देख रहे हो ना, वो है 8, ठीक है, वो कहता है कि content of the index को plus करो from the address क्या है 60, LD 60. मैंने आपको पहले बताया these are the addresses, these are the content. तो 60 is the address. तो 60 में अगर मैं ऐड करता हूं content of the index, वो हो जाएगा basically what we will basically have is 60 plus 8 which is 68. So we get 68. और फिर वो कहते हैं copy the content of this calculated जो 68 निकाला है, this calculated address to ACC which is accumulator. Accumulator is a register that temporarily stores your mathematical calculations. So 68 को हम store कर देंगे इसमें. So copy the content of this calculated address. So what we'll do is 68 ये जो है ये this is the content of 68. So this calculated को हम store कर देंगे इधर, which will be basically be 0 1 0 1 0 0 0 1 0 1, right? This is what we have. So show how you obtain. I just told you the process. ये process आपने लिखना 60 68 फिर 60 की हम उधर गए हैं और उसके बाद we did that. Okay, right. Is it clear? Is this point clear, beta?
Yes, sir.
Okay, show the content of the index register after the execution of the instruction DEC IX. IX basically stands for index register. IX का मतलब होता है short form index register. So DEC का मतलब basically होता है subtract 1 from the content of the register. Subtract 1 from the content of the register accumulator. So basically हमारे पास क्या आ जाएगा? If I subtract 1 from the this, आप बताओ मुझे जल्दी. I have to finish the other part as well. मैं चाहता हूँ बार-बार रिकॉर्डिंग ना मुझे करनी पड़े. So what will we have? DEC. If I subtract 1 from the content of the index register, where will I land? From the content. Content का